your stars back on the big stage playing for that trophy. Magic Johnson has seen that a time or 5 in his career. As we had the great Magic Johnson with us tonight, Stephen A., Michael Wilbon, Jalen Rose. Let's take a quick look here at the difference in experience in this series. It's an interesting one. It's the third time that we've had an NBA Finals in which one of the teams has at least 100 games of finals experience and the other has none. The others involved, 97, the Bulls were the experienced team against Utah. And then Magic in 91, your team had 135 games of experience, and Michael's Bulls at that point had none. I should mention, 31 years ago today, Magic had a triple-double in Game 1 of that series. But you are the perfect person to ask. How significant is finals experience in this matchup and in general?
To me, it only means something toward the end of the game. Right? Well, you've been there, you've done that. Also, your nerves before the actual first game. I think Boston is very hyped, probably very nervous, don't know how to really control the nerves. But to me, it doesn't really mean anything because, you know, you got to go out and play the game. Let's remember that Boston is taking down all the big giants in the East. So I don't think they're going to come here and be nervous. I think they'll be ready to play.
Let me bring Jalen in on that. You played in the NBA Finals, and yours was the less experienced team when you got there. What are your recollections of that? What is it going to be like this first time?
Well, in our case, we were going against 2 of the top 5 players in the league in Shaq and Kobe, and we lost a couple of years prior to Mike, Scotty, and Phil. And so going against those guys, they were an upstart team like the Boston Celtics hoped to be. But I want to allude to Magic's point. These are, on paper, 2 of the best offensive teams in the game. Not true, because the last 4 minutes of the game, the Boston Celtics are one of the worst teams in the NBA at executing. We just saw that against the Miami Heat in Game 7. Yep. That's what experience matters, late in games and being able to make a play.
Judgment under pressure.
Yes.
And their judgment under pressure has not been great. We saw that in Game 7, even though they're here. I mean, they tried to fritter that away in Game 7 at Miami. So the question to me is so interesting that Irvin said that. End of game, particularly in Game 1. I mean, you're going to learn just along the way from Game 1 to Game 2. But tonight, if it's a close game, and particularly with the ball offensively, what about judgment? We've seen Jaylen Brown, particularly with those turnovers throughout that series. What is their judgment going to be, and will it be impacted by the lack of experience in the finals?
See how brilliant I am? I learned the lesson. I learned the error of my ways. I agree with all of y'all. I agree with every one of y'all. I mean, there's nothing different about that. But I will say this. Can we be a bit more specific? We have the greatest point guard in NBA history here. The Boston Celtics don't have a prototypical point guard. That's their problem. They got players, they got athletes, they got rough riders, they got competitors, they've got skilled individuals, and collectively, they're tenacious defensively. But when it comes down to crunch time, a floor general you can hand the ball to say calm everything down, to be an orchestrator, the umbilical cord, the extension to the coach. Who is that guy? And see, Golden State, even though he's not a point guard, he's a point forward in a Draymond Green. Does the Boston Celtics have that in the closing closing minutes?
Well, that's up to Tatum and Brown, though, because we know who's going to have the ball in the end of the game for the Celtics. To me, they had to run more motion. They had to mix it up. You can't just leave Tatum out there trying to play one-on-one against 4 other, not only his defender, but the 4 other Golden State Warrior players. So that's where they run into trouble trying to play 1 against 5.
Some news worth passing along as well. Just moments ago,
the analytics have been all about Boston in the postseason. According to ESPN's BPI, the Celtics have an 86% chance to win their 18th title, knocking off the Warriors. Meanwhile, the public has been all about the Warriors. The odds makers at Caesars Sportsbook have the Warriors as the minus 145 favorite to win their 4th title in 8 seasons. Who does the NBA Countdown crew side with? Greeny has much more. Take it away, Mike.
Yes, I do, with this crew of gentlemen here as we're getting set to count it down to Game 1 tonight. And so you just saw it. It's a fascinating comparison there. Our analytics love the Celtics. Las Vegas loves the Warriors. I know you told us, Magic, you believe Golden State is the favorite and you think they'll win. But if when it's all said and done, it is the Celtics holding up the trophy, how will that have happened?
Well, Greeny, they have to first control the pace of the game. Slow the game down, make it a half-court game. If they can do that, they got a chance to win this series. They have the best defense. We know that in basketball. But also they have an advantage on the offensive rebounding. Golden State is a poor rebounding team. They must dominate the rebounding. What you looking at me for like that?
Nice face.
Are the best in this series. They're the best rebounding team in this series.
I respectfully disagree with Irvin Magic Johnson.
On what?
Let me explain.
On what?
I think that it's hazardous for Boston to think that they can beat Golden State in the half court. Yes, they got some big bodies. Yes, they've got some size. But Golden State, in a half court, they got a better chance of defending against Golden State. If Boston gets out in the open court, it's problematic because number one, they don't all hustle back on defense. Number two, they don't have any shot blockers. I'm looking at Boston and I'm saying, excuse me, you got young thoroughbreds. Steph Curry's 33. Klay Thompson is still recovering from his injury. He's 31 going on 32. Draymond Green is around the 8. Run!
Stephen A., if this game is over 100 points, Golden State is going to win the game.
Check.
Easily. Easily.
Here's what the Celtics can also do.
Y'all.
You remember when the Mavs were playing against the Phoenix Suns and how they frustrated CP3, how they was posting them up, how they was searching them defensively? That's what the Celtics got to try to do to Stephen Curry. They got to keep him on the baseline playing D and guarding against the post, not out in transition. And the other thing, try to frustrate Draymond Green. You want Al Horford. You want Time Lord. You want Grant Williams to be in there trying to get offensive rebounds, to be up in his face. Because if Draymond isn't out there, it's a huge drop-off up front.
Can I ask a question? Who's in charge of the BPI?
Yeah, that's what I was laughing about.
Jalen and I over here double up and laughing.
Yeah,
What? With the BPI, you know, remember the Gong Show where you could take a cane and pull somebody off the stage?
Researcher
At the
Matt
Sandman.
Williams is very much a part of that. But the BPI says our analytics believe the Celtics have the best offense and the best defense in the NBA.
Hold on. There's no way they have the best
offense. That's just wrong.
The team that they're facing got the best offense. They have too many scores on Golden State's team. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, too. If they take those long shots, Tatum and Brown, and they don't make them, that means long rebounds. That's going to put Golden State into their fast break. Two things we got to still watch, and this is this. Golden State's been off for a week. How are they going to respond to now getting hit, bumped, and getting taken out of their rhythm? Because you know that's what the Celtics are going to do. And then the other, on the flip side of that, are the Celtics' legs dead and tired after a 7-game series? That's what we got to watch in this first game.
We will start getting a sense of it tonight. Again, tip-off just after 9 Eastern on ABC. We'll be counting you down.
Season experience certainly favoring the Warriors in this one, but man, it's going to be a good series because those Celtics have no quit in them, Kevin.
Hell, no doubt about it. And they're fantastic on the road. You talked about it earlier in the broadcast. 7 road wins, so they're not fazed by a crowd here, especially I think they lock down. We will see how this plays in this environment with the NBA Finals and the Chase Center, of course, and they're going to be very loud. But when you look at the optics here, a lot of conversation about the Celtics offense. They were actually better during the regular season than the Warriors, so Boston has that firepower. But during the playoffs, that is somewhat flipped with the Warriors having the best offensive efficiency of any team. Much of that can be contributed to the road each team has faced to this point, because the road has not been easy for Boston, not discounting what Golden State has gone through, but Boston has gone through some grueling series, especially the last 2, beating the Bucks as well as they. It's great to have the GOAT, the Hall of Famer, of course, Doris Burke, here with us on the call for ESPN Radio. When you look at Boston's offense, listen, the Warriors have the second best defensive efficiency behind the Celtics. How can the Celtics offense thrive tonight?
So they function in 2 ways offensively. You'll see them at times, Kevin, go to a mismatch hunt where they're going to attack a Tyler Hero or a Max Strus. But to me, at their best, Kevin, they are a multi-drive and kick team. So guys are touching the paint by getting downhill. The ball is popping side to side, and guys are going to have to make open shots. We know what the Jays are going to give us, right? Both guys very capable of making tough twos. To me, can the Marcus Smarts, Al Horfords, Derek Whites, those guys are going to have to make shots, because the 2 other Jays are so gifted that they can create their own. I'm curious to see the shot making around them.
Yeah, shot making, when you talk about that, Golden State comes right into the conversation, right?
Right.
Offensively, when you look at the previous series, the Celtics faced the Miami Heat team where it was like Jimmy Butler and then who else?
Right.
And it's completely different here with Golden State and all the options that they have offensively. What are you most looking forward to in that matchup?
Well, what do you like better, a cage match or a symphony?
I love symphonies.
Okay, because they just came out of a cage match, and you could make the case with both Milwaukee and Miami. It was physical hand-to-hand combat. Golden State's a team that functions more as a symphony. It's multi-options. It's constant movement both sides of the floor. The Celtic starters gave up 95.5 points per 100 possessions because there's not a weak spot. But every switch has got to be on point. Your ball pressure has to be on point. And the single most important thing the Boston Celtics can do to me on the defensive end is not turn it over on the offensive end. Because there's a through line between their wins and losses in the playoffs. 15 or more turnovers, it's problematic. They get below that number, Kevin, they are formidable.
And who has led the turnovers in the postseason? That is Jason Tatum with 77. The next one is Luka at 59. So he's got to protect the basketball all night long.
Correct.
So good to see you.
You too. I bet you our girl Elle likes symphonies too.
Oh, yes, she does. Elle likes all kind of music, no doubt about it. Doris Burke on the call, ESPN Radio later on tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. You're the best.
See ya.
Elle?
I love